Do you feel bored with your craft stash and want to get more out of it? I've got just the thing. Let's get crafting. Today I'm using supplies I haven't used yet in unexpected ways. I'm using this fabulous VICKI BOUTIN stencil set. I'm going to use this center one that has little circles and stars in it and some metallic cardstock. I'll be using my SPELLBINDERS Platinum 6 original platform today. Now I do have the extended platform, but I like the original platform when I'm using it to emboss stencils. So that's where we're heading with this. I've got my original platform down, my stencil. I am going to spritz the back of my cardstock because I don't want it to crack. And then I'm going to place that face down on top of the stencil. Next up, I'm going to be using my rubber embossing mat. Now, this is going to give the stencil somewhere to push into to create that embossed look. And then next, I'm going to place my embossing plate and run that through several times. Actually, I think I run it through 3 times. But if you don't have a SPELLBINDERS Platinum 6, you can certainly do this with any die cutting machine. You just have to pay attention to whatever kind of sandwich your machine calls for. Not all machines are created equal. If you have a SPELLBINDERS Platinum 6, yours may not work the same way. Maybe it's tighter or looser. You might have to add shims, but nevertheless, it will work. You just have to figure out your sandwich. So here's the big reveal. And look at there, a whole new way to use my stencils. And I didn't even have to break out the inks because I'm dry embossing. Today's project was all about using what I already have, and I have this great SPELLBINDERS die set called Sweet and Savory. And I'm going to use it today because it's been sitting in my craft room for a couple of years and it's never been used. Using scraps, I've already cut out my die cuts. And I'm going to use my jelly plate today. Now, this poor thing has only seen a little bit of love. So lots of you wrote in and said, use your jelly plate as a grip mat and do your ink blending on it. So that's what I'm going to try. Let's see if it works. I've already die cut. These are the little noodles. I'm going to be making the I don't know if I say that correctly, bowl of noodles. And several of these things need to not be white. So there's a little egg that we're going to color and some noodles. I can't forget to shade the broth as well. So that's what that little yellow piece is there. Hey y'all, I'm Wendy from Village Card and Craft, and I want to thank you so much for choosing to spend your time with me today. If you're finding value or enjoyment from my video, please consider giving it a thumbs up and hitting the subscribe button. We'd love to have you be a part of the Village Card and Craft community. Now, like usual, I'm going to be breaking out my Distress Oxides. This one is antique linen, and I'm using a very small detailed brush from Picket Fence Studios. I don't know if these are still available. If they are, I will link them as well as anything else that's still available down in the description box. Now, antique linen is kind of a beigey color, kind of reminded me of noodles, so that's what we're going with today. And I'm just going to pounce the color on. These are really tiny little itty bitty die cuts. So pouncing is all that it takes. To add some shading to the broth, I'm going to be using Distress Oxide Vintage Photo. I did die cut this in a duller yellow, and I just want to give it a little bit of shading. You'll notice that I did change up the detail brush. There's no reason other than it didn't have any color in it. I do not have family colors for my detail brushes. I use them all interchangeably because I typically only use Distress Oxides. I do have a separate set of regular blending brushes for my dye Distress inks, however. Following up, this is some Lost Shadow, and I'm going to go ahead and color just the right-hand side of what's going to be the egg. By giving the egg a little bit of a gray cast, it makes it a little bit more realistic. We know it's not going to be completely realistic, of course, but the white of an egg is not necessarily completely pure white. It does have a little bit of gray cast to it. And I'm going to go ahead and do the yolk in mustard seed distress oxide. That was simple because it was really tiny. I'm also going to add just a little bit of vintage photo to the bowl of noodles. Now you'll notice that I did use a pattern paper here. This was really all scraps that I used for the vast majority of the card, except for the matting layers. That's it. And of course the base layer, but everything else is scrap. So die cuts are a great way to use up your pattern paper in places where you least expect it. This kind of gave me a 1950s, 1960s vibe with that patterned bowl. I don't know. I think my parents had bright yellow and bright orange dishes when I was growing up. Now, if you're wondering or new to the channel, my favorite glue is Bearly Arts Precision Craft Glue. It gives you enough wiggle room and it is super firm, and that precision tip is amazing. I have manipulated this particular little broth piece because the die cut cuts out little pockets where you can kind of place the vegetables into the pocket so they kind of stand up if you so desire. If you want to step up the die cut, you could certainly add glossy accents to the bowl. That would make it look like porcelain, and I think that's kind of a cool idea. Did you know we have a Facebook group? Head on over to Facebook and search Village Garden Crafts and join us over there where you can share all of your work. We have a great group of people who are encouraging and supportive of one another. In fact, let me talk about support for just a second. A few months ago, one of our subscribers asked if we could maybe see it in our hearts to send a card to someone at a nursing home or one of her relatives resides. And I sent out the call to action, you guys, and you did not disappoint. I think there were about 200 residents, and I was really hoping beyond hope to get at least 50 cards sent. Well, you guys blew it out of the water. To date, you guys have risen to that challenge and sent over 900 cards to those residents. And I couldn't be more proud of what you all accomplished and the smiles I am sure that those residents have on their faces. Thank you so much. Off camera, I completed the rest of the die cuts, and we're going to go ahead and put this card together. I'm using an A2 standard US 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch note card. This is accent opaque 100-pound cardstock that I'm using, and I'm using a piece of blue matting. Now, I'm not sure where this particular cardstock came from. It's pretty thick. No idea. But again, I'm just using scraps. So I'm going to go ahead and layer this up. And I have already trimmed down my metallic dry embossed cardstock down to 3 3/4 inches by 5. I quickly realized that my bowl of noodles got lost on the silver metallic cardstock, so I die cut a blue circle. The blue is complementary to the orange and it will set it off very nicely. So I've cut that blue cardstock out. It is the exact same blue as that matting layer, and I have placed my bowl of noodles into the circle there. I wanted it a little bit off-centered. I did have a little bit of a problem with the chopsticks, and I had to add another little layer of white cardstock underneath so that it would all be the same height. I definitely didn't want to use any type of foam tape because you'd see it. And I'm going to finish this cute little card off with a sentiment from the Sweet and Savory sentiment set that says, "You are phenomenal." And this card came together rather quickly, with the exception of the cute little bowl of noodles. That one took a little bit of time, but I used that product, so I'm really proud of myself. Using this technique, you can really knock out a quick card. Now here's a close-up of our phenomenal card, but I also have another one, and this one just took minutes, literally. I dry embossed a stencil that I had. I added 2 die cuts and a pre-made sentiment that says "Warm Winter Wishes." And here they are together. And they are super cute. I love this technique. Now, I've picked out a couple of other videos that I think you're really going to enjoy. So until next time, I'll see you real soon.